Hey everybody, Mr. Regan here, and today we're looking at completing the warm-up survey as we look to review our warm-up activity that dealt with our histograms, variation, distribution, and a population of australopes. Now, when we get to the end of the video, make sure we come back to the warm-up survey and we're looking to identify, did we get the questions correct from the warm-up, and do we feel confident in your understanding of how to read the variations and distributions within a histogram. So, to begin, you had to look at a vocab table along with a diagram that had a population of australopes. And this population has a group of the same type of australopes, but we know that these australopes have different variations. Now, we know the variations that these differences in traits have to deal with color. And if you notice on our histogram, we have 10 different variations, starting with blue and working their way all the way to yellow with some greens in the middle. Now, with this diagram, we know that each color has a different distribution. So whether we're looking at the left side of the histogram where we have these 8 blue australopes, or the right side where we have these 3 yellow, we know that as we read this, we can begin to describe the population of australopes based on the variation of color they have and the distribution of those colors. And the goal is to take that understanding and to apply it to the graph we have of our australopes and their fur. Now, when we looked at the histograms here, we had population A, and that was at generation 1, and population A at generation 50. So we know that the generation of australopes here, okay, was a very early generation, and then 50 generations later, so as time passed, we can see that the histogram has changed, meaning the population has changed. So, looking at the very first population histogram here, we can see that there are 7 different fur traits, 1 to 7. Okay, and we can see that 1 means they have very low fur, and as we get to 7, we know they get more and more fur. So if we look at the variation, we know the variation was high. We have 7 variations of this one trait. When we look at the distribution of this trait, we can say that the distribution were mostly low-furred australopes, meaning if we look here, we have more low-fur australopes with 1, 2, and 3 than we do with medium, or even more, obviously, with the high. We have no distribution of 8s, 9s, and 10s. So when we compare this histogram to the population here at generation 50, so after time has passed, we see that not only the variations have changed, but the distribution. So the distribution is different. Before, we had little to no fur in the middle variations. Here we have a lot more. We had almost none at 7, and now we have the most at 7. So our distribution has changed. We also see that the variations have changed. Here we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different variations. Here we only have 4. So when we look at these two histograms side by side, we can conclude a few things. Number 1, we can look at our key concept here and conclude that the number of individuals with each trait in our population changed. We can see that the traits changed from generation 1 over time when we get to generation 50. So based on that breakdown, we have to review our 2 questions. Do the 2 histograms show the same amount of variation in the population? So are the variations here the same here? And do the 2 histograms show the same distribution of traits? So this compared to this. Now that we've broken it down here, now that we've kind of explained the key concept and compared our 2 histograms, if you feel you got the questions right, awesome, great job. Go back to the survey. If you feel you got them incorrect, still go back to the survey and complete it, but we can also fix our answers by clicking the amplify icon. If you have questions, make sure you reach out. Otherwise, good luck with the rest of the lesson.